Right, thank you. So we'll talk about white hat hacking in 3 different perspectives. So first one is basically discovering issues and how you can disclose those issues, and also how you can develop defenses and how you can collaborate with community and external organization in order to build better systems, right? So I'm Director for Security and Compliance at WSO2, Head of Security Engineering and Architecture. All of you might have worked with me or my team during certain engagements, right? So if I quickly introduce what is white hat hacking or what is ethical hacking, basically like I mentioned in the initial slide, we mainly talk about authorized discovery, responsible disclosure, and also building stronger defenses, right? So we'll go into details about these words, what the authorization, what responsible disclosure, etc. means. But then again, in simpler terms for the moment, that ideally means you are identifying issues with permission from a third party, right? And then you are responsibly disclosing these issues in a way where the third party would be able to fix those issues before it goes into public, right? And now you are working with this third party, or you are working with different external organizations in order to provide or in order to build stronger systems. So this is what, in summarized way, ethical hacking or white hat hacking means, right? So it can be one small fix for an organization. Let's take WSO2 for an example. It might be one line of change, right? Fixing a major security vulnerability. But that one line of code might result in multi-million-dollar crisis if it was not fixed at the correct time. So let's take an example from our own organization. Okay, before we go there, so I'm basically recognizing some of our contributors, different people that have been contributing to WSO2 Reward and Acknowledgement Program from 2022 to 2024. We have more names if we go from the beginning of the Reward and Acknowledgement Program, but then again, here's the list, right? So if we take one example where we had an unrestricted arbitrary file upload vulnerability in affecting all of our WSO2 products. What that means is basically someone could have come and uploaded a random file or basically targeted file into one of our products. And by uploading that, you could have executed any type of code on top of our servers, right? So this is a 9.8 critical vulnerability which was reported to us in a responsible manner by Orange Style, right? So in order to discuss more about the impact that it made, let's go through some of the search results right now for that particular CVE. So you can see there are roughly around 10,000 results at the moment talking about this particular vulnerability, including YouTube videos explaining how you can exploit this, and including some of the GitHub code bases providing POC where you can simply put whatever the code that you want to run in a targeted system and run it, right? So now, these are some of the government organizations putting out their own advisories to other government entities, asking them to patch WSO2 products because it could result in remote code execution, right? Now think about this slide or the presentation that Mifan did earlier. He talked about how we impact the entire world, right? How we impact banking sector, how we impact transportation, how we impact different industries, including industries like healthcare, where people's lives are at risk, right? So think of the situation where someone could run arbitrary code on top of these systems that are running WSO2 products, right? Think of someone running whatever the code they want on top of WSO2 product running inside a healthcare environment, right? So customer data is at risk, brand reputation of that particular organization is at risk, brand reputation of WSO2 is at risk, right? And it could have easily resulted in a multi-million-dollar loss for WSO2 basically the entire reputation that we have built up so far across these 19, 20 years would be gone simply if this materialized as a targeted attack. Going back, right? So basically, because of the responsible disclosure this person did, how they collaborated with our engineering team in order to fix this before it went to public, all the articles that we are seeing here are talking about how WSO2 released an update for this particular vulnerability, how they provided notification to customers, and how the customers and WSO2 work together in order to fix this. Even these articles that are published for government entities are basically talking about how they are requesting all other entities to take updates from WSO2 and apply those updates immediately. Think about the situation if this was the other side, right? If it was not responsibly disclosed, it would have been it would be a 0 day, right? So basically, government entities will be talking about how their reputation or how their systems got compromised because of a vulnerability in WSO2 product. This is the impact that it makes, right? So now going back to white hat hacking. So I'll quickly go through some of the past events as well and where we are right now, why I think this is a great time to be in that field, contribute to this field, etc. as well, because it's more recognized now, right? So back in, I'd say, 1980s, right? So most of these type of research that you would do, trying to find security issues in a different system, would have been classified as black hat things to do, right? Basically, you didn't have any legal protection against you. You couldn't go and report to organization that there's a security issue like this, right? They would see you as someone who is trying to hack into their system in a black hat manner. But then again, when it comes to 1990 period, along with the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, it was recognized that this type of ethical behavior would be beneficial. But in year 2000, basically in year 2003, there was this ethical hacking certification, right? Certified ethical hacker, which basically allowed you to recognize yourself as a certified ethical hacker so that you can go and say, okay, I'm certified, I'm reporting this to you in a responsible manner, I know what is supposed to be done in order to responsibly disclose it, so on. So in this era, certain bug bounty programs started, for example, the Netscape program. And then again, towards 2010, different organizations adopted the same practice, right, including WSO2. WSO2 formally started our program towards 2015, but then again, we had IAM team basically working with different external researchers even before that in addressing certain vulnerabilities related to WSO2 products. Even though we didn't have a formal document explaining, we have this program, right? And now, looking at year 2020, basically 2020s, there are different corporate strategies being formulated around how you can work with external security communities, how you can work with these ethical hackers, etc., in order to build better defenses, right? And then we have bug bounty programs like HackerOne, BugCrowd, which basically provide you a platform where you can come and contribute to these programs, get rewarded. Basically, you don't have to worry about working with the organization that is taken care of by the platform and so on. And you are getting financially rewarded as well. The reward amounts, etc., is really high when it comes to different mainstream programs, for example, Google, Facebook, etc. Right? So why should you get involved? This is an important aspect. Then again, we are linking back to the previous presentations that we were at, basically about building your own profile, right? How you can build a profile that stands out. Now, all of you basically are engineers working in different areas, but then again, if you can add to your profile that you are an engineer with understanding about security, right? That would stand you out. In a previous presentation, we talked about how we get hundreds of CVs at this point, right? And then how we are looking at different systems in order to filter out some of these CVs, right? So in order for you to stand out in a situation like that, right, and basically get selected easily, this is a good opportunity. Right? You can list down different white hat hacking or bug bounty programs that you have contributed to. You can list down different companies that you have worked with in building stronger defenses, including WSO2, right? And then basically become a security champion within your team. So basically you know, right? When you say security, you would come across certain names within your teams who are basically actively looking at security aspects, who are owning that space, who are championing that space, who are driving certain innovations within that space. So you can be that champion. You can work with the existing champions and work with security team in order to build that profile within the organization as well. And then, of course, you have financial incentives that are coming up when it comes to external programs, as well as certain hackathons that we are driving. So we'll come to that a little later. So basically now we talked about why this matters, why doing this is important, and what sort of profiles or what sort of advantages that you would get by participating, right? But then again, we'll quickly discuss about how you can discover, how you can disclose, and how you can develop. But then again, we don't have enough time to go through in detail. I'll provide you some references and some baseline in order for you to get an understanding and then move forward with that. Right? The important word here is authorization, like authorized discovery. So join open bounty programs or disclosure programs where you have certain scopes that you can test within. For example, WSO Reward and Acknowledgement Program lists down different products or different URLs that you can test on. Right? So stick to those rules and respect no-go areas. There can be different reasons for organizations to say this is not within the scope of the program. Right? So stick to those rules, then you will be safe. And now you need to find different issues. Right? Being engineers, the best thing that you can do is basically review code if code is available. So WSO2 products, you have the code. So you can basically do code reviews, identify any potential security issues there. And then you have architecture diagrams explaining how all this code come together. Look at how those interactions work, how the interactions are authenticated. Try to identify business logic errors there as well, right? So now you'll be able to go through code, you will be able to go through the architecture, how those components interact, and identify the issues in a white hat, in a, let's say, open box manner, right? Because you have the code, you have the internal details. But when it comes to external organization, that might be different if it is not open source. Still, okay, if you have the code, then the next thing that you can do is using static analysis. Basically, static analysis go through the code in an automated way and try to identify security issues. I won't go into details of different tools that you can use, but then again, you can refer to our source code analysis tool list in order to get some guidance about different tools that you can use for different languages. So don't just run the tool, get the report, and send it to whatever the responsible disclosure program. That won't work. So you'll have to understand what these tools report, see whether these issues are true positives, whether those materialize, whether those are like actual issues or false positives, and so on. So try to understand what these tools tell you, come up with proper report. So we'll go into that detail in the next slide, right? And then now imagine a situation where you don't have access to source code, right? Now you have to work in a black box manner, right? Some disclosure programs are mainly targeted towards certain websites. Now you have the URL, but you don't have anything else, for example, right? Or you have the UI, but not the source code. So in those type of situations, you can use different dynamic analysis tools. For example, WhatsApp and Burp Suite, these have free versions. So you can use this in order to try and identify security vulnerabilities that at the runtime. Right? And then again, AMAS is a good tool, for example, to enumerate an organization. For example, if we are talking about WSO2, we could have given WSO2 name, and AMAS will list down all the domains, all the IP addresses that could be related to WSO2, right? And then you can drill down into what sort of ports, etc., exposed from those domains, and then what sort of services are available, what sort of versions are being used. All that information you can drill down using these type of tools. Now you can identify whether certain domains or certain IP addresses within the scope of a bounty program or external program has certain vulnerabilities. If so, you can prepare a report. And now, there also why I use the word analyze is because you can't simply submit that report that is coming out of the tool. That is not the way that you are responsible disclosing, right? You have to analyze, you have to understand whether tool is actually telling something true. If so, what impact does it have? If it is within the scope of the program, you can submit a report. And then you can keep on monitoring different third parties that related to your target. For example, now if you are interested in looking at WSO2 products, you can keep on looking at different let's say CVs related to common third-party dependencies that are used in WSO2. So that won't be the perfect example, but then again, for example, if you are looking at certain website, you know what are different scripts that are being used by that website, right? And now you can actively look at the vulnerabilities related to those scripts in order to report to the particular program, as an example. And now, threat modeling is an interesting thing that we are like practicing increasingly now within different teams. That is a good way to adapt the mindset of thinking about risks, right? So look at a framework like Stride LM. I won't go into detail, but we have threat modeling guidelines, etc., as well that you can refer to in order for you to get a full understanding about this. But this allows you to think about different risks, right? So for example, now if we think about interaction between two systems, for example, our HRIS and certain API within the organization, right? Now, if you have Stride LM in mind, you'll be able to think about what type of spoofing can happen in this type of API interaction. What type of repudiation problems could occur in this type of interaction. What type of denial of service could happen in this interaction, and so on. So there's a framework that guides you to think about different risks. Right? So read about Stride LM. That will help you to think about risk when you are designing systems. So in order for you to test this out, you need a proper environment, right? I recommend using something like Kali Linux. Give it a try. All these tools that I was talking about are already there installed on that OS, so that you don't have to do anything in order to bootstrap, right? So you can just run the VM, familiarize with the tools, and then start using these tools in order to find some issues. So give it a try. But then again, in order to give it a try, you need to understand how other people are also doing this, right? And how other people are contributing to different bug bounty programs, and doing so how they are earning or how they are building a profile for themselves. So good set of resources to understand this are listed here. So I have the URLs here because you can simply search it now. So these two aggregate different bug bounty write-ups people have done, allowing you to basically read about how people use these tools or use these technology methodologies in order to think about different risks and discover vulnerabilities, and how they report it. And sometimes when you report a vulnerability to an external organization, there are certain conflicts that happen, right? How we are going to resolve those conflicts, how we are going to work with these external teams in order to drive the report to a successful completion. Right? And then again, like if you want to practice, you have some tools that are listed here, for example, OWASP Juice Shop, as well as Portsagger Academy, which basically give you a testing ground where there are like known issues, which you can try out, which you can exploit, and understand different security problems before you actually go and try to find issues in a system that you don't know about. Right? These have pre-built vulnerabilities that you can try out. Right. So responsible disclosure basically comes in. We have to highlight few points. One thing is basically we have to report issues through official channels only. By official channels, I mean different, let's say, bug bounty platforms that the organization might be using, VDP portals, vulnerability disclosure portals, or email addresses. For example, even in WSO2, it's security@wso.com, right? Or Choreo Security, Asgardio Security at wso.com, which act as common portal where internal people as well as external people can come in and report vulnerability in a responsible manner. Now, when you report issues to these type of channels, make sure you are communicating respectfully, right? You have to respect time of the other party as well, so you can't simply send whatever the report that is generated by the tool, expecting them to do the analysis and find out what is relevant and what is not. That can be done by that organization as well, right? They can run the tool. Instead, you can run the tool, identify the vulnerability, add value, create a proper report on your own, explaining what is the impact of that vulnerability, what type of confidentiality, integrity, or availability impact is there to that organization. Create something that is clear and detailed, explaining the risks, right? And sometimes you can basically explain about the solution as well from your perspective if you have enough information to tell that, especially when it comes to open source projects. Now, the other important aspect is you have to always respect reporting timelines. So you are reporting the vulnerability, and now you have to wait until the organization properly address the vulnerability. Sometimes you have to do, sometimes some organization, including WSO2, have to do front porting, back porting to a whole lot of versions, right? That takes some time, especially if the severity of the vulnerability is somewhat lower. Now you have to provide sufficient time for that other organization in order to address these vulnerabilities, and make sure that you don't publicly disclose this vulnerability until the organization is fine with that, right? And then help fixing the vulnerability. There are certain situations where we also get certain suggestions from reporters explaining what could be the better fix for this vulnerability. There were like few situations like that. So now that might help our engineering teams do the fix, but then again, more than that, that will help you establish that you are a matured reporter, right? That will help you build your profile. And when you publicly talk about how you disclose the issue with WSO2 or how you disclose the issue with certain organization, you can write how you collaborated with them, how you made certain suggestions and how that was accepted by the team and so on. So basically now you are building your own profile by showing that you had the maturity not just to report but also to help fixing that issue, right? And of course protect sensitive data. So we had a good example that I can bring up a certain situation. We were talking about product vulnerabilities earlier, right? But then again, there were certain vulnerabilities related to our infrastructure as well. There were certain situations where external reporter reported us an issue related to one of our support systems, right? And while discovering that issue, the person did a very good job in making sure that they didn't access any of our personal or customer data, right? This was basically a SQL injection related to one of our support systems. If they were not careful enough, they could have simply retrieved the entire customer list and then reported it to us in a responsible disclosure manner. But then again, we have a legal problem, right? Because we have disclosed all those customer entities to a third-party researcher. So be careful when you are doing testing. Make sure that you don't access any confidential information. If you have a feeling that, okay, this is a SQL injection and I might get this level of information out of it, don't go and try to test that out if you are going to get highly confidential information out of it. So talk to the team, talk to the third party, work with them in order to identify whether this is actually an issue. Right? That is better than exposing this level of information to your side. So make sure that you are careful in that aspect. Now, about developing stronger defenses. Now, we discovered issues, we reported it to third party in a responsible manner, and now we are working with them in order to develop stronger defenses. Sometimes this can be basically working with that organization in order to build stronger defenses for them. So, for example, you are internally working with WSO2 in order to build stronger defenses for WSO2 as well. That can be another example. But there can be certain situations where you work with organizations like OWASP in order to build industry-wide practices and recommendations. Right? For example, now if you look at OWASP, we used to have OWASP Web Top 10. Right? So these are good references for you as well, basically to understand different security vulnerabilities. Look at OWASP Web Top 10, basically talking about different top 10 vulnerabilities that are there within web applications. And then you have OWASP API Top 10. Now they have OWASP LLM application Top 10 as well. So basically people are contributing, building up different vulnerabilities that could be there in LLM applications, for example. Now, whenever new technologies come up, you can go and contribute on your own in order to build certain recommendations that are accepted industry-wide. This helps you build your own profile once again, right? So let's take an example where you are the author or you are the lead of that LLM project, right? LLM applications or top 10 project. Now you will be asked to attend conferences and give talks about this, basically educate other people around these particular vulnerabilities, right? So you can see how this helps you grow a profile like we discussed in previous presentations. So that's what I want to cover. My invitation for you is basically to rise as a guardian, build knowledge in cybersecurity aspect within the domain that you are in. So if it is IAM, build security knowledge in IAM aspects as well as application security. And then if you are looking at AI, for example, build knowledge within how LLM security issues can become problems and what sort of defenses we can bring in. Right? Think of security loopholes earlier on. Look at frameworks like Stride LM in order to help you build that. Right? And then help WSO2 as well as other organizations build defenses, find security issues earlier. And of course, join Cloud Security Hackathon the next time. So these are some stats where we basically invited you to join us and work with us in a white hat manner, find issues within our cloud systems and report it to us basically so that we can improve our cloud system. So 2023, 2024 results show you that these efforts were successful, but then again, we would like to see more people coming in, right? Now that you know about white hat hacking, how you can do this, how you can participate, so make sure that you join this pool of names who contributed in these past 2 years, and let's make 2025 hackathons more engaging. So with that, thank you everyone. Hope you learned about white hat hacking. Hope to see you all in next hackathons.